A non sequitur is a conclusion or statement that doesn't logically follow from the previous argument or statement. I'm Larry Fedorik, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives. Or in the case of this week, many topics.
Season 16, Chapter 7, Non Sequiturs, Part 8.
Yes, it's time for another non sequitur segment. What I do is I collect all my thoughts and ideas that individually on their own might not merit an entire podcast. And rather than let them go to waste, I throw them all into a pot and have this podcast stew. I also call this a stream of semi-consciousness. Here we go. The other day I was sitting at home alone, wallowing in regrets. And then I thought, why don't I just get myself together, pick myself up, and head out? Maybe go to the mall and walk around. And then I could regret that instead. Sounded like a plan. The number of times I have picked up an item from the meat cooler at the grocery store, looked at the price, and then put it back is now up to 86. There is this pack of Schneider's Oktoberfest sausages that I would buy once in a while, $3.99. Putting aside the fact that the packaging and the sausages themselves got a little smaller, shrinkflation, they went up to $4.99, $5.99, and $6.99 in just a few weeks. I stopped buying them. Then one day I decided, to hell with it, I'm going to spend the $6.99 and treat myself. They were $7.99. I didn't buy them. Next day I did it again. I said, what the heck? I'm going to spend $7.99 and treat myself. They were $8.99. I didn't buy them. 2 days later, I walked by that same display and the sign said $6.99 with a big yellow tag below it that said, Save $2. Save $2? If anyone from the Harvard School of Business can please explain to me how I'm saving $2, I will see to it that you get the Nobel Prize for Economics. My total savings were actually $8.99 when I refused to buy the product in the first place. Walk and don't walk. Electronic signs at busy intersections. They used to have the words walk in green and don't walk in red. Sometimes don't walk would be flashing red. And then it was decided, I'm sure, that English instructions in a multicultural society were inappropriate. And so we went to symbols. A green person walking and then a red hand flashing. Hand up. Halt, who goes there? Hand up. I was surprised to find out that the change happened way back in 1952 in New York City. It took a little while longer for it to spread out across North America, but 1952. So as it turns out, many pedestrians took the don't walk sign not as an instruction, but a suggestion. The red hand is telling me not to walk, but I gotta be me. Thing is, generally you had no idea how long that light had been flashing red, don't walk. You weren't really sure how long you had. Cheat the light, cheat law, cheat fate, cheat death. In the 1990s, an unknown, uncredited group of geniuses, the prophets of perambulation, came up with a solution. An electronic don't walk signal that also includes a countdown clock. And now those are everywhere. So now you're still cheating the law, but you have more information. You can calculate yourself if you can cross the entire street in the displayed time available. The busy street near where I live, I have to cross it to get to the store. The walk light is on for like 2 seconds, and then quickly it goes to the countdown. The countdown starts at 25. I know that if I saunter, I can still cross in 8 to 10 seconds. If I walk at a faster pace like I'm late for a meeting, 5 to 6 seconds. I've also heard, and I believe this to be true, that if you start crossing the street when the countdown clock is already going, that's against the law. I guess, right? Because it's saying don't walk, and you're walking. But everybody does it. I don't like standing right at the edge of the curb when I'm waiting for the walk light. I stand a few yards back because of the speeding traffic. So when the light flashes walk, by the time I get to the curb, the countdown clock is already running. It's the same thing if there's like 10 of us standing at the intersection waiting to cross. By the time it's my turn, the countdown clock's on. I always wonder, why wouldn't you make the walk light longer and the countdown clock shorter? Don't understand the logic of the way it is now. Sometimes I'll come up to the intersection and the clock is down to like the last 12 seconds, and I know I can do it, but I don't bother because of the vehicular traffic. If I start walking and a car turning left or right has to suddenly stop and wait for me, then usually you get honked at. Oh, sorry, sir, I didn't realize the extra 8 to 10 seconds that you have to wait here in your car is going to upset your whole day. And of course, motorists always glance at those countdown walking clocks as well to see how close they can come to running a yellow or even a red. There must be studies that show these countdown clocks actually work, that they make things safer, because they keep using them, but I don't know, seems like a flawed system. Incidentally, those buttons on the pole that are at some intersections, and you have to push them to actually get a walk signal, none of those work. Yeah, they're not actually hooked up to anything. Then in my city, we have these buttons and signs that say, push for audio signal. The audio signal helps the visually impaired know that they can cross. Except, can the visually impaired actually read that sign to know to push the button? Who are those signs for? I see people all the time just randomly pushing the button. I scream at them. What are you doing? You didn't even read the sign. You don't need the audio? Well, I don't actually scream at them. My ulcer screams at them from the inside. We in Canada are in the middle of a federal election, and once again the following has become evident. People want a strong economy, cheaper products and services, better health care, better education, less crime, clean, breathable air, drinkable water, unlimited affordable energy, a place to live, food to eat. And they want to pay less taxes. So how do you suppose all that's going to ever work? Psst, don't tell anybody, but there is an answer. The uber-rich pay their fair share of taxes. But no one is campaigning on that idea except the NDP, and they're polling at low single digits. So go figure. I was reorganizing my storage room the other day. Well, reorganizing. I had a high stack of bins that had a bit of a lean going, and I ignored it. And one day they just all fell over. So I'm cleaning up my storage area, and I find 2 full bins of old board games that I'm hanging on to for some reason. Monopoly, Scrabble. Hey, by the way, how many years did we play Scrabble, where we had to take all the tiles, flip them face down, and mix them up a bit? Both players pretending that they weren't trying to memorize where the Q and the Z actually were. It's like keeping track of the P in the old shell game. Until finally Scrabble said, hey, why don't we provide you with a nice cloth bag so you can just dump the tiles in there, shake it up, and then pull them out blindly. That little improvement took way too long. I guess the product development department at Scrabble suffered from underfunding and layoffs. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the storage room, the board games, Monopoly, Scrabble, how's this for names? Backgammon, Boggle, Othello, Yahtzee, and Trivial Pursuit. So I got to thinking, whatever happened to Trivial Pursuit? Well, I guess the same thing happened to all of those games, electronics, online games, etc. But the hours we spent playing Trivial Pursuit. But we'd have other couples over, as a whole social evening based around playing the game. Those days are gone. The game was invented in 1979 by 2 Canadians, Chris Haney and Scott Abbott. John Haney and Ed Werner helped develop the game, and it hit the market in 1981. In about 5 years, they had $600 million in sales. It was picked up by Parker Brothers, later part of Hasbro. Hasbro eventually paid $80 million just for the rights. In the mid-90s, a guy named David Wall of Nova Scotia claimed he was hitchhiking with a friend one day and he was picked up by Chris Haney, and that it was David Wall that told Chris Haney about his plans for a trivia game, including the unique pie-shaped markers. It went to trial and it took about 10 years, but the Nova Scotia Supreme Court eventually ruled against the hitchhiking David Wall. I was a big trivia buff well before the game came out, so I loved it. I had trivia books, including one by Fred L. Worth. So Worth also sued the Trivial Pursuit makers, claiming they stole some of his content. And his proof was the Trivial Pursuit question, what was Columbo's first name? Answer, Philip. That piece of trivia is also in Worth's book, but it's fake. Worth said he put in a few fake facts into his trivia book for the very purpose of catching thieves and plagiarists. In fact, no one ever knew Columbo's first name. It was never revealed. The Trivial Pursuit guys said in defense, hey, once it's out there, it's general knowledge. The court pretty much agreed with that. Trivial Pursuit, you can still play online and on PlayStation, Xbox, and so forth. Yeah, but those days, having friends over, a few beers, glass of wine, Trivial Pursuit, we were being social.
Okay, history. This is for the game.
All right, Bubble Boy. Who invaded Spain in the 8th century?
That's a joke. The Moors.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. It's the Moops. The correct answer is the Moops.
Moops? Let me see that. That's not Moops, you jerk. It's Moors. It's a misprint.
I'm sorry. The card says Moop.
There's no Moops.
It's Moops.
Moors.
Moops.
Moors.
Haney and Abbott also built themselves 2 expensive golf courses near Toronto, Devil's Pulpit and the Devil's Paintbrush. I think now they're just known as the Pulpit Club. Eventually, the public could play there. I played there. It was very expensive. Not really worth it. People would say, oh, but those beautiful fairways. And I would respond with, yeah, I guess, but then I'd have to learn how to hit a ball straight onto a fairway. I judge how good a golf course is by how easy it is to find my ball in the woods. Anyway, all those memories, just from reorganizing my storage room. Oh, and if you want some trivia, Haney and Abbott were inspired to invent the game after sitting down one day to play Scrabble and noticing that a lot of the tiles were missing. So they were inspired to try and invent their own game. Yeah, I know how that goes. I got a lot of million-dollar ideas myself. I don't want to give them all away. Here's just 2 words. Adjustable shoes. You can just adjust them from a size 6 to a size 8 as your kid grows. Yeah, it's genius. I'm not really into birds. As a matter of fact, I fear them. But I always appreciate springtime and hearing out my open window all the different birds returning to the neighborhood, the various chirps and tweets and warbles and flutes. Ah, how nice, spring the birds. I don't know which birds are which, just by sound, except for the usual suspects, crows, geese, seagulls. But at least all those other tweets and chirps sound familiar. Except these past few days. I hear this new one. I don't recognize it. I've tried to spot the actual bird, but I can't. It's a weird squawking sound. How do I describe it? Sounds kind of like a small yappy dog who is gargling with olive oil. I've tried Googling small yappy dog gargling with olive oil. That was no help at all. I was expecting it to say, oh, you mean the yellow-bellied finch. No, didn't say that. There was really nothing. Well, there was a whole thing about whether a dog can eat olive oil. The answer to that is yes, by the way. And no, I don't think it is an actual dog gargling with olive oil. It's definitely a bird. A bird who sounds like a gargling dog. I may never know what it is. Speaking of regrets, huh? And speaking of Googling, have you noticed now that when you Google something, that yes, there's still a variety of click options, but at the top, there's a brief paragraph answering your question. Well, except the one about the bird. But yeah, and at the top of that paragraph, it says AI overview. So you're Googling and you're getting AI. No real point there, except if you're thinking, I don't really interact with AI. Well, you do. And also, it avoids you having to actually click on a link like Wikipedia or the New York Times and actually having to read the whole thing. Google AI just gives you the brief breakdown. Gee, that shouldn't affect our thinking ability or overall intelligence in the long run, should it? I'm now at the age that when people ask me what fragrance I'm wearing, I'm happy to say, why, it's Voltaren by GlaxoSmithKline. GlaxoSmith is Calvin Klein's son, I think. Being this age, there's this thing that I do now, that when I buy something, I wonder if I have just purchased a lifetime supply of it. Here's an example. I still like making notes with pen and paper when I'm sitting at my desk. The other day I bought some new pens. It was a 5-pack. And I thought, how long are 5 pens going to last me? I wonder if I've purchased a lifetime supply of pens. I got the extra large jug of Tide. It was on sale. I bet this will be a lifetime supply. Does that sound depressing and morbid? Not really, you see, because when I use up the last of the laundry detergent, I will think to myself, this is an accomplishment. Look at me. I just outlived my bottle of Tide. Way to go, Larry. Hey, do you notice those dishwasher cleaning pods really don't advertise that much anymore? I mean, they're still out there, but somehow I guess people didn't buy into the concept. Now, when I run my dishwasher, and at the end all the dishes come out all sparkling clean, that my dishwasher itself is still filthy and needs cleaning. So I have to buy these pods and run them with an empty cycle to squeaky clean the cleaning machine. No thanks, Cascade. You know, I'm just trying to afford sausages. Which reminds me, I found some veal cutlets on the street the other day. Have you ever just found veal cutlets like that? Bet you haven't. It was still pretty cold out. I noticed them on the sidewalk as I was coming home. I was standing there waiting for the walk light. Grocery store is right there. They were on the styrofoam, wrapped tightly in plastic. The price tag there. Obviously, someone had only just dropped them. They had just fallen out of a grocery bag. I picked them up. They looked fine. I looked around. I didn't see anybody walking with grocery bags that I could call out to, "Hey, you dropped your mate." Guess I could just wait there, because maybe somebody would come back looking for them. But how long would that take? You know, by the time somebody gets home and unpacks their groceries and then realizes, "Hey, didn't I buy veal? Where is that?" What should I do? Maybe I could take a picture, make some copies, and then put them up on light poles and bulletin boards around the neighborhood. Found veal cutlets. To inquire, please call.
Excuse me, sir, are you the veal finder?
Yeah, I could do that. Wait, I know, no picture. Just a poster, found veal cutlets, with my number. That way you have to call me and describe them to prove that they are yours. I also thought that, when people find a glove or a wool hat on a sidewalk or somewhere, that they pick it up and hang it on a nearby sign, or they put it on top of a fire hydrant to help the person who's coming back to look for it see it more easily. Yeah, I could do that. I could hang this veal from that tree branch over there. That's right at eye level. But how would I do that? I'd go home, get some string or some tape or something. Nah, that's no good. Then I remember that when you find a wallet, supposedly you can just drop it into a postal letterbox, and the post office is assigned with finding the proper owner. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, but a wallet has ID in it. This veal, as far as I can see, doesn't have a driver's license or a health card or anything. Quite the quandary. What to do? What to do? Then the answer came to me. Veal Milanese with saffron rice. Now that was some good street meat. And hopefully one day soon, someone will drop some sausages. That's the thing, right? I can sit around home, wallowing in regrets. Instead, pick myself up, get myself together, and get out there. Find that place where the streets are paved with meat.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37@gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.